Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only RANT. And today, I'm going to be reviewing a superhero film titled The Amazing Spider-Man. Of course, as always, let's get into the story of it, shall we? We get to see the origin story of Peter Parker, and he's like this nerdy character at his high school. And nobody really likes him really because, well, he's a nerd. And that's pretty much like a typical thing in these kinds of movies, I guess. A superhero starting off like in a humble kind of way. But yeah, there's this girl that he likes. Also, Peter Parker is some sort of math genius in this version of the film. But the thing is, folks, he really likes to study a lot. And we get to see how he's pretty much like an adventurous kind of kid at the same time. But we really get to see how he's affectionate to this one girl here. And I know, before anyone tells me, I know this version of the character is attempting to be more faithful to the source material. And yeah, I get it. You're trying to have the character of the woman be in this film and have more screen time with him. But anyway, of course, just like the other version of the character, we get to see him be bit by this radioactive spider or whatnot. But the thing is, he becomes Spider-Man, of course. And while at the same time trying to keep his interest in this one woman. But the thing is, folks, I'm getting tired of the whole high school thing. It's pissing me off. I've seen this crap way too many times in anime. The whole high school setting, I've seen it way too many times. The Amazing Spider-Man is this 2012 superhero-themed film. So yeah, I mentioned before that the story of the film pretty much centers around this young Peter Parker who discovers that his father's study has been pretty much bugged. Gathering hidden documents, Peter's parents take him to a house of his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, then mysteriously deported. Teenage boy Peter Parker pretty much becomes Spider-Man, and we can see his adventures. Again, this is supposed to be the origin story for Spider-Man himself. Personally, I didn't like this movie. I thought it was pretty bad. I mean, special effects are good, but that's about it. But this film is a redo, a restart, reimagine, reboot. Anything with a re in front of it is a remake. So yeah, folks, this film is a remake of the original Spider-Man film. Calling it a reboot is just more of a fancy way of saying it's a remake. But still, I did not like this film at all. And granted, the original Spider-Man film was no masterpiece or anything. It's not going to be anything Oscar-worthy, I guess. But still, I didn't like this film at all, really, folks. I didn't like the characters. A lot of the plot points felt forced. I mean, granted, it did feel like they were trying to be more faithful to the comic book source material, which is fine. But I personally didn't like this film, folks. I don't recommend it, really. And just, I don't know, just didn't like it at all. And I thought this was a wasted opportunity. They should have done a Spider-Man 4 instead of remaking the first one. They could have had maybe like a Supergirl and Power Girl movie, I guess you can say. That'd be pretty badass. I would have liked to see that. And maybe they could have done a crossover with Spider-Man. That'd be pretty good. They're pretty much trying to do that with Spider-Man and the Avengers anyway. So what I'm saying here doesn't seem too much of a stretch. Yeah, do a crossover kind of thing. They've done that with the characters of DC in the past before. And I would like to see that. Have them have their own movie, all three together. Even though, quite honestly, Power Girl's backstory is quite convoluted, if you ask me. There's even been some what-if scenarios between Supergirl and Power Girl where they're actually lovers. And also, what-if scenarios that two of them are not even related. Which could be interesting, I guess. There's the whole idea of the fact that Power Girl does live in a parallel universe. And I don't know, in some ways, in some of the backstory of Power Girl, they're not even related. It has something to do with the fact that her grandfather or something. I guess this could be interesting if they remove the whole incest angle of it. I don't know, the whole backstory is convoluted anyway. But no, I don't want to see no cheap version either. Some, yeah, fan fiction stuff, well, they actually do some cheap pornographic versions of these characters, which I'm not interested in seeing. Ugh. Anyway, back to the Amazing Spider-Man, folks. Like I was saying, I didn't care too much for these characters. It's pretty much like the very first Spider-Man movie, just with a few things swamped. and there's some stuff that are a bit different, I guess. And yes, it does have a bigger budget, but still, folks, even like that, I don't like it that much, really. I don't really recommend it all that much. In my honest opinion, folks, this film shouldn't have been made. They should have just done Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6. They were planning to do that anyway. Yeah, they were originally planning to do a Spider-Man 4, a 5th, and a 6th, despite the lukewarm reviews for the third Spider-Man film. So yeah, this film isn't that good, folks. I didn't care for it, really. So it gets a 2 thumbs down for me. I mean, sure, the special effects are good, but that's about the only nice thing I can say about this movie, because it's pretty bad. Yeah, I just didn't like it, folks. I personally didn't care for it at all, really. No way. Yeah, the idea for Amazing Spider-Man came about when the development of this film had began with the cancellation of Spider-Man 4, which was supposed to come out in 2010. And the director Samuel Raimi, yeah, this pretty much ended his Spider-Man series, even though it's clearly from the start that they were originally going to make more. But yeah, then after this, they did make a Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I will review later. During the pre-production stage of this film, the main characters were casted back in 2010, and then there were new designs that were introduced from the comics, such as the artificial web shooter, which actually did appear in the comic books. And then there's also a few changes to the overall story. Sony Pictures Entertainment built a promotional website releasing previews and launched a visual marketing campaign, among other moves, for this particular movie. And then there's also been some tie-ins included a video game as well. The film itself, The Amazing Spider-Man, had premiered on June 30th in Tokyo and was released in the United States on July 3rd in 2D, 3D, and IMAX 3D, and released in home video in 2012. So yeah, folks, I personally didn't like this film, really. This remake, I should say, was well received by critics, praising its performance by the main character, the visual style, and the realistic portrayal of the character. Both critics and audience were mixed about the introduction of the character Lizard, the Lizard character, and some people had said that it was a little too severe for the film, I guess. So yeah, I didn't like this film, really, folks. Yeah, and some people had said that this film came out too soon, meaning that it came out too soon after Spider-Man 3. In some ways, I do have to agree. Following the release of Spider-Man 3, Sony Pictures Entertainment had announced on May 5th, 2011, they would release the date for Sam Raimi's next installment of the series. By this time, the screenwriters James David and Gloria Rose had all rejected versions of a script that were made by this one person who wrote the second and third installment of the films, was working on yet another attempt. Sam Raimi had wanted John to play his next villain. However, then on July 11th, 2010, Company Pictures and Marvel Studios had announced that rather continue the audio saga, they would much rather reboot the entire series with a new cast and crew. So yeah, in some ways I didn't like this idea, to be honest with you folks. I thought it was a bad idea, but oh well. I enjoyed the series. And if you ask me, Spider-Man 3 was just lukewarm, if you ask me, on a good day. But anyway, Amazing Spider-Man isn't exactly the worst film I've ever seen, folks, but it's far from being good. As I just said before, folks, the special effects were good, but that's about it. The music itself is very generic, so I really didn't like this film at all. There was supposed to be a live-action version of Sailor Moon that was supposed to be made a while back, but it never got into production. And just so you know, I'm not counting those cheap production short movies that many fans had made over the years. Oh my god. Again, I really can't stand fan fiction. Ugh. Well, anyway, like I was saying, folks, The Amazing Spider-Man is not something I would recommend. The Amazing Spider-Man gets an overall rating of a 4.9 out of 10. A 4.9 out of 10 gets from me. As always, thank you for watching and take care.